Well, good afternoon. Hope you're having a good day so far. I just wanted to hop on here real quick. Something just been on my mind, and It's kind of been stirring in me, and felt like I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. And this really ties into all the stuff that I said I've been wanting to share. That's been part of my journey and my learning for the last year and a half to 2 years. And so, what I want to talk to you about today is fear. Man, I'm getting really bothered because I feel like everywhere I turn, all I'm hearing about is people just spewing their fear everywhere. I just don't even watch the news because the news is just filled with fear. I know this from my years of experience that fear does not come from God. Fear absolutely does not come from God. You can read through the Bible and figure that out. The number one command and encouragement all throughout Scripture from God is do not fear, do not be afraid, fear not. It says it over and over and over and over and over in Scripture. Why is that? Well, that's because God knew that that was something that we were really going to struggle with. That was an emotion or a something that we were going to embrace and have a hard time with. And so we need to learn how to deal with fear. But here's my question: is in this environment right now, in our culture and what all is going on in our society right now with the coronavirus and racial tension and the riots and the political stuff that's going on and the campaigns that are happening and leading up to the elections this fall, all kinds of craziness. And if you turn on the TV, what you're going to hear and what you're going to receive is fear. Okay. Now, I'm not telling you don't turn on the TV. That's your choice. I choose not to because I'm just not going to listen to fear. And when people are operating in fear and when people are spreading fear, they really aren't operating in truth. Okay. And so here's my question though. Let's personalize this. Do you realize that you cannot give away what you don't have? Okay. So if you don't have peace internally, you cannot bring peace to other people. You cannot bring peace to the situations around you. You cannot bring peace to your home. You cannot bring peace to your relationships. You cannot bring peace to your work environment. You cannot bring peace if you don't have peace. However, what you do have, you most likely will give to the people around you and to the circumstances. You're going to experience what's going on inside of you. So if you're filled with fear, then probably what you're going to do is you're going to propagate fear. So one, I would ask you to be really, really careful. If you've got fear going on inside of you, well, I'd love to talk to you about how to deal with that. But you need to find a way to deal with fear because fear is not from God. In fact, there's something really, really interesting. Brain research has shown that our brains do not have circuitry, they do not have wiring, they are not designed for fear. They're only designed for love. And so fear is what we have to learn. Fear comes from the way that we think and we wire that into our brain. But it's not meant to be wired with that. The brain does not know what to do with fear. The brain does not know what to do with that kind of circuitry. It wasn't made for it. And so that's why fear is so dangerous and toxic. And what happens to us is we begin to take on fear. Our brain isn't wired for it, but the more we think about it, that is what grows. So if you're going to think about toxic things, then toxic things are what's going to grow in your mind and it's going to become part of your soul. Now, there's a way to change your thinking. There's a way to renew your mind. There's a way to take every thought captive and make it obedient. I want you to think about that. Taking every thought captive and making it obedient, and then renewing your mind. How do you renew your mind? Well, that means you have to think in a different way. There has to be some transformation. So if we begin to think about the right things, and if we can begin to think about truth, in this case, if we can begin to think about the things that are true and that have peace, then we can begin to rewire our brains. We can kill the toxic thoughts and begin to grow new and healthy thoughts. So I don't want to get into this too deep. If you want to learn a lot more about that, go listen to Dr. Carolyn Leaf or get some of her books, or I've mentioned the 21-day brain detox or the Switch app that she has. You'll learn a lot about that. But here's the deal: our brains are not wired for fear. Our brains are wired for love. And so when we have fear, boy, it kind of short circuits things in our lives. Sorry, I can't speak today. That kind of short circuits things in our lives. And if we're filled with fear, then all we can bring to the situations and the relationships around us is fear. So in this environment, in our culture right now, the last thing we need is another person who is accepting and receiving fear from everyone else around them and from the news media and whatever. I mean, you can come up with fear on your own, I guess. The last thing we need is more people filled with fear, because all they're going to do is propagate the fear. It's just going to spread. Okay. And I actually think that's the most dangerous thing that is happening in our culture right now, is the spread of fear. That harms our culture, that harms our world, causes all kind of craziness out there. But where does it start? It starts in here, right? Whatever's going on inside of me is what I'm going to bring to everything outside of me. And so that means we've got a lot of people walking around in our country filled with fear. In fact, in our world, there's lots of people that are filled with fear. I have experience in this. I worked for a number of years in a very fear-filled environment. And I don't have time to get into it today, but I could sit and tell you story after story after story about how toxic that is. Fear is so damaging. So my question to you: are you filled with fear? And are the words and the actions that you're living out, are those propagating fear wherever you go? I'm just going to ask you to be really careful during this time. Please don't propagate fear. If you've got fear inside of you, then you need to begin to deal with that. That's something that I think God can help us deal with, and there are ways to do that. And so if you need help with that, man, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. It's actually a pretty simple process, but it's going to take a little time to kill the toxic thoughts in your mind and rebuild new and healthy thoughts. It takes a little bit of time to renew your mind, but God will do that for us, and so there's a simple way to do that. So remember, you cannot give away what you don't have, but you probably will infect people with what you do have inside. So that's going to affect what's going on outside. So didn't think that through. I didn't make any notes on that. I usually don't make notes. I just talk. But I hope that made sense, and I hope that's a little bit of a challenge and hopefully a little bit of an encouragement to you. Or maybe it's just the prodding that you needed to go, hey, you know what? I'm filled with fear, and you're right. I do need to find a way to deal with that, because we just aren't wired to handle it. We just aren't wired for fear. So again, if you want help, you want to talk about it, hit me up, send me a message, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Meanwhile, have a great day. Find peace, build peace, and give away peace. See ya.